how did football go from looking like this to this?
Three in the box waiting for the cross, and it was Bale! Oh, what about that? What about that from Gareth Bale?
Did a group of cavemen start kicking rocks and magically come up with something as complicated as an offside rule? Well, lucky for you, I'm here to tell you the entire history of football. Let's go all the way back to ancient Roman times. I'm talking about 2000 BC. The balls were made of linen and animal sinew to give it that extra bounce. In ancient Greece, Epicurus, also known as Phidina, was invented. And we know that because this grave stele from the early 4th century BC was found in Piraeus near Athens. This carving is probably the only depiction of Epicurus we have. And you may recognize it from this photo of Ronaldo kissing the Euro Cup trophy. In the meantime in China, people played a game called Cuju. This was sort of a way to play football, where the main goal was to send a ball made of animal skin through holes in a net that were stretched between two poles. This was the case till the mid-1800s, because that's when everything changed. On the 26th of October 1863, the Football Association was established in England at the Freemasons Tavern in London. This was also when the first official rules of football were laid down. Before the rules, football was violent, and handballs were more common than you can imagine. They introduced cards and the infamous offside rule, which I'm pretty sure took a long time for people to understand back then. After that, the sport spreads everywhere else. In 1884, the first ever international football tournament called the British Home Championship took place, but this was mostly reserved for people in England. So in 1904, the Fédération Internationale de Football Association was formed, or as most of you may call it, FIFA, to promote the growth of football all over the world. And in 1913, the first ever FIFA World Cup took place in Uruguay. Wait, do you think Luis Suarez's grandfather was part of that audience then? Anyway, 13 teams from 3 continents competed, only for the Uruguayans to take the first ever World Cup trophy home. Football was looking to be the biggest thing ever, up until a loud bang and a reign of terror. 1939 was the year football was put on hold because unfortunately, some Austrian man with a mustache wanted to conquer the world and kicked off some war you might have heard of. Football was shut down, all competitions were cancelled, a lot of players from football teams got drafted to the army. When the war ended in 1945, things were back in track in full force, and in 1954, the Union of European Football Associations was founded, or UVA for short. This would give European teams a whole new light as continental competitors with some of the most famous teams we know today. The UEFA Champions League, initially known as the European Cup, was inaugurated in the 1955 and 1956 seasons, becoming one of the biggest competitions in the world. Real Madrid won the first few cups and was considered to be the best team in Europe, which was because of superstar players like Raymond Kopa and Ferenc Puskas. But it wasn't until 1955 that the real superstar emerged to the public eye. At the age of 15, Pelé made his debut for Santos. He also played for the Brazilian national team at 16, which is insane if you think about it. But Pelé was no average player because this guy won the FIFA World Cup not once, not twice, but 3 times. In the 1958 World Cup, he became the youngest player ever to score a goal in the prestigious tournament, a record that still hasn't been beaten. He has over 1,280 career goals, had the most goals in a calendar year, where he scored 127 goals in 1959, which was broken over 4 decades later. He was named UNESCO Athlete of the Century in 1999, and helped popularize football in the United States while he played with the Cosmos. Pelé was the stepping stone for footballer fame, which was very apparent to the world in 1966. This was the year where England won their first and only World Cup title thanks to Bobby Charlton. Other players like Johnny Rivera, Lev Yashin, and Bobby Moore shined in the World Cup of '66. But the ones that changed the trajectory of footballer fame were none other than George Best and Johan Cruyff. It was as if these two laid the foundation of what the game is today. Johan, who joined Ajax, had skills that stars today carry in their blood. No-look passes, long runs, dribbling, and Neymar-level skills were on display for the first time ever. He revolutionized soccer, and with his philosophy called total football, left a lasting impact on the game's tactics. George Best, on the other hand, joined Manchester United and was a global icon. His dribbling skills were impeccable, but it was actually his crazy life outside the pitch that earned him superstar status. Because Best was drowning in parties and tons of ladies. To quote Mr. Best, "I used to go missing a lot. Miss Canada, Miss United Kingdom, Miss World. Or I spent a lot of money on booze, birds, and fast cars. The rest I just squandered." This was a huge step to fame and fortune for the players of the sport, because after the two retired in 1984, a new era of football madness emerged in countries other than England. In the 1982 FIFA World Cup, Brazilians like Zico and Socrates brought flair and creativity to the game, and the country was considered to be home of the most talented players in the world. Italy won the World Cup, and AC Milan was very successful thanks to players like Marco van Basten and Ruud Gullit. Coaches like Areo Sacchi and Cruyff introduced total football at Milan, Ajax, and Barcelona. The Hazel Stadium disaster and Hillsborough tragedy of 1985 and 1989 were considered to be the dark side of the 1980s. And these events led to changes in stadium safety and regulations to control the huge crowds that show up to watch the game. As for the star player of the decade, Napoli introduced Diego Maradona to the world in 1984. And as most of you know, he changed everything. He helped his club shine in the Italian era of football and beat England by a famous yet controversial hand goal in the 1986 World Cup. Of course, advanced technologies like replays and VAR didn't exist. Unfortunately, because of substance abuse and old age, Maradona ended up retiring in the 1997, which was the decade when the world witnessed a new wave of talent that laid the foundation of football today. In 1992, the English Premier League was officially formed, which meant that there would be a lot of money in English clubs, which also meant that a bunch of international players were trying to find a spot in the big clubs there. I mean, why wouldn't they want to join clubs like Manchester United, which dominated the 1990s under the leadership of Sir Alex Ferguson? Premier League titles, FA Cups, trebles, UEFA Cup winners, and Community Shields. This man brought everything home. Apart from that, in 1994, one player made his debut to the Brazil national football team, and he was about to make history. I'm talking about none other than Ronaldo, of course. Wait, not that Ronaldo. I mean Ronaldo Nazario, the phenomenon. The striker showed insane speed and skills throughout his career, and secured 3 FIFA World Player of the Year and 2 Ballon d'Or in 1997 and 2002. He brought home the World Cup twice in 1994 and 2002, and was a sensation during his time in Barcelona and Inter Milan. But with Ronaldo, there was another shining star who joined him in Real Madrid back in 2002, Zinedine Zidane. He was a French football legend, winning 3 FIFA World Player of the Year and the Ballon d'Or in 1998. When both Zidane and Ronaldo were playing for Madrid, the term Galacticos was introduced to football. With them in this recruitment, there was Figo, Raul, Roberto Carlos, and David Beckham. Galacticos may have dominated the football world in the early 2000s, but there were a few managers that made the impossible. FC Porto was an underdog that surprisingly won the UEFA Champions League in 2004. Who are they to thank? Jose Mourinho, a strategic mastermind and the making. He also achieved domestic success with Chelsea in the English Premier League. Meanwhile, Arsene Wenger was at the helm of Arsenal and revolutionized English football with his innovative approach in guiding the Invincibles to an undefeated league campaign in the 2003 and 2004 season. Pep Guardiola was also guiding a football club that marked its name and history. Barcelona's tiki-taka style and success, including 2 Champions League titles, were all thanks to the maestro in the managerial position. These coaches changed how football managers looked at their team in a tactical way. And let's not forget Alex Ferguson's dynasty over at Manchester United, because in 2003, everything, and I mean everything, was about to change forever. 18-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo made his debut in Manchester United, and it's safe to say the rest is history. As he slowly improved year by year, the titles and Ballon d'Or were starting to get comfortable with him. This kid was going to be huge, and in 2009, Real Madrid bid a world record transfer fee of 94 million euros for the star. Up until 2018, his time in Madrid was one for the textbooks. He became Los Blancos' all-time leading scorer, netting 451 goals in 438 appearances, and earning the team 4 Champions League titles along with 2 La Liga victories. There was no stopping this man. But with every generation, Ronaldo needed a worthy opponent to match his skill, speed, and power, and that little boy from Argentina made his debut in 2004. Lionel Messi was dropping jaws and scoring goals over at Barcelona. Up until 2021, his time at Barca made records, becoming the club's all-time best scorer and securing domestic and international titles with players like Xavi, Iniesta, Neymar, and Suarez. These included 10 La Liga titles and 4 Champions League trophies. And let's not forget the 8 Ballon d'Ors. In 2023, he lifted the FIFA World Cup and made fans all over the world emotional. Messi single-handedly led his team to become trophy winners, similar to what he did with Inter Miami in the 2023 League Cup. Meanwhile, Ronaldo moved to Al Nassr, paving a way to the new era of football. Messi bringing Major League Soccer fame and revenue, while Ronaldo did the same with clubs at Saudi Arabia. They're not alone in this, because Inter Miami has Luis Suarez, Jordi Alba, and Sergio Busquets on their roster, and also Karim Benzema and Neymar moved to Arabia. This doesn't mean the European leagues aren't dead in any way. Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland are ruling PSG and Manchester City, Jude Bellingham in Real Madrid, Garnacho in United, Salah in Liverpool, Pedri and Gavi in Barcelona. As you can see, this is a new era of the wonderful sport with a new generation of superstars. So that was the entire history of football. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our videos.